Welcome everybody to VKG 1027, aka Violet Knight 1027. I just want to welcome everybody back. This is going to be a little bit of a different take from what I usually do. Usually I do gaming content, and as you guys saw recently, I started a Pokemon Silver Nuzlocke with my older brother. But today, with the success of One Piece Film Red, I am going to be doing a small little project that I wanted to do for a few days, and if it does take off, I'll do it for other characters. I'm going to do a what Pokemon team certain characters will have. Today's episode will be covering Monkey D. Luffy from One Piece, also Red Hair Shanks, and spoiler alert for Film Red, even though this has been in all the promotional art possible, his adoptive daughter, Uta. So I'm going to go over Uta first, with who her Pokemon would be, and then Shanks, and then Luffy. The only real rules I did was that there was only one legendary Pokemon permitted per team, and with the possibility of a Mega Evolution if I deemed it see fit. These teams were not meant to be like competitively viable. God knows I'm not a competitive Pokemon player, save my life. I can barely beat the top, or I can barely pass 1500s in Showdown, so God knows this isn't my professional advice. It's more to see which characters I think, or what Pokemon fit the characters, both like status-wise, or personality-wise, or object-wise. So we're going to be starting off with Uta. And for her legendary, I gave her Meloetta. You know, Uta is the user of the Uta no Mi, aka the Son fruit. Her name is Son. Her name translates to Son, and even in the promotional art, you'll see her with the Diva headset for like a concert. Uta's dream is to be the world's greatest diva or singer or pop star, so to speak. Kind of like a J-pop, K-pop kind of deal. And Meloetta is the pop star Pokemon, basically. So I think as a representation for her Devil Fruit and for her outward appearance, I think Meloetta is a perfect choice for Uta's legendary Pokemon. As a representation for the abilities of the Uta no Mi, I picked Hypno. Both being because when they use their abilities, when Uta uses the Uta no Mi and Hypno uses Hypnosis, both of them put the recipient to sleep. One of them usually to steal dreams and whatnot, and the other is she puts them into the Uta world, which is basically like a dream dimension, so to speak. So I think Hypno is a very good representation for the Uta no Mi, and how her powers and they manifest with each other. So for her third Pokemon, I gave her Medidengar. Medidengar is the representation of, and here's spoilers here for the movie if y'all haven't watched it yet, for Tot Musica. Basically, it is a dream or music devil that was sealed away, that when summoned by the user of the Uta no Mi, releases this song devil, and who wants to consume the souls of the people that are trapped, similar to the way that Dengar consumes dreams. So I thought it would be a nice parallel, especially since Tot Musica is already a creature that is like piano based, like his arms are like piano, so that he's black and white. So I think a good fit would be that of a Mega Shiny Gengar, to give him the same color scheme. Uta's fourth Pokemon, I would give her a Cubone. Personal biases aside, because Cubone is one of my favorite Pokemon of all time, possibly top 10, give or take. I would give her a Cubone because Cubone has gone through, as most people who have read the Pokédex know, Cubone's the stole that Cubone wears is the stole of its mother. It is what it is. So I think Cubone is a good representation of the loss that Uta had when Shanks had to abandon her because of what had happened in the plot. And so it's a good representation for not only the loss of a loved one and her abandonment issues, but also a good representation just of her sadness and struggle to keep trying to push forward. Her fifth mon would be Morlul, the tiny mushroom, the fairy type from Genesis Circle. Morlul is a tiny mushroom that represents the wake shrooms that Uta was eating throughout the movies to maintain herself awake so that her devil fruit power couldn't deactivate. Ironically, Morlul is a mushroom that tends to put its like victims to sleep. So I think it's kind of funny that I chose the Pokemon that puts people to sleep for a mushroom that doesn't put you to sleep. But it fits, it's cute, and it fits her aesthetic mostly. And honestly, it's the Pokemon that looks closest to it. I could have done like Foggy or Amoonguss's first form, but I just didn't feel like it fit properly. And then her final Pokemon is Audino, to represent Uta's motivation. Uta's motivation in this movie was that she wanted to become the start of the new era, lead people towards happiness, peace, and just overall improve the world. The problem is that she didn't know how to do so. So I think Audino is a perfect representation for her intention and belief on why she did what she did. Next up, we would end up doing Shanks, one of the four emperors of the sea, one of the Yonko. The man who saved Luffy at the beginning of the series, the man who's Uta's father, the red-haired pirate captain himself, Shanks. His legendary Pokemon would be Zacian, the sword dog from Pokemon Sword. One, because they are both sword wielders, Shanks with his sword Griffin, and Zacian with his sword, the rusted sword from the key item. I think both of them, I think Zacian represents his actual use of the blade, not his skill. It's more a representation of the strength Shanks wields when swinging his sword. And it also helps that both of them can only use one sword. Shanks, because, the whole arm missing thing, and Zacian, because it only has one mouth. Alternatively, his second mon would be a Bisharp. The dark type goes well with the fan theory of Shanks possibly being a villain. It is once again a strong humanoid Pokemon that uses a blade, or bladed weapons technically, because Bisharp, uses the blades on his arms and like the ribs. But also, it is a red humanoid Pokemon, so putting the red in red hair Shanks. So, then you have Pyroar, a proud lion, a king, so to speak. And I think that's a representation of not only Shanks' Conqueror's Haki, but also a representation of his Conqueror's will itself and his title as a Yonko. One cannot be a true king in the era of the Great Pirate era if one is not willing to put his pride and strength on the line for his goals. His fourth mon would be Marowak, because I think it's really fitting that Uta, with all her abandonment issues, has and having a Cubone to represent that, Shanks would have Marowak, the Pokemon that would inevitably give Cubone its stole to be all depressed and everything. So I think it's just fitting that, father and daughter, they have the same evolution line. Also, I would have Shanks have Zangoose. Once again, similar to Bisharp's reasoning, Zangoose is a Pokemon that uses a slashing weapon similar to how Shanks uses a sword. He has the same color scheme of red and white that Shanks uses. Shanks having like his white cloak or his white shirt, black cloak, and red hair, obviously. While Zangoose has the white fur, the red pattern that goes across its body, and then the black claw that Zangoose is known for her hunting Zwegrips. And finally, so how Zacian was the representation of Shanks' power with a sword. His Mega will be Mega Lucario to be the representation of Shanks' skill with the blade, being nearly unmatched in the One Piece world, being one of the greatest swordsmen, on par with Dracula Mihawk, most likely the greatest swordsman, and overall just being someone who's skilled when it comes to close quarters combat and sword fighting. So I think that's who Shanks' team would be, and obviously that could change in the future. Bishop could get subbed out and everything. We know so little about Shanks at the moment that it's kind of hard to take a guess at what the representation of his team would be like. And finally, I think we would have, the main character himself of One Piece, the GOAT, the captain of the Straw Hat Pirate himself, the 5th Emperor if you're an anime watcher, if you're, a manga reader, or, spoilers, don't mind spoilers, one of the 4 emperors nowadays, once again, spoilers, the eater of the Itonomi model Sun God Nika, instead of what we thought was the Gamu Gamu no Mi for all these years. I think we know more than enough to give Luffy a very accurate representation now, especially now that we know what his devil fruit is, especially. Before, a lot of people would put Ambipom for, the whole Monkey D. Luffy, and all that stuff. But seeing that Nika is a sun god, and Luffy recently attained that power, I think a proper monkey for him would be Infernape. One being, Monkey D. Luffy. Infernape is just a monkey. But also the aspect of the sun god, and Infernape being a fire type, but also both of them being inspired by Sun Wukong. And that aspect of strength and resiliency. The Infernape's blaze ability, especially in the anime, just never giving up, never surrendering, never faltering. And Nika's innate ability to keep receiving damage, the drums of liberation, and the whole being able to just rubber bouncing back. Luffy's inner flame and devil fruit body allow him to perfectly manifest what it would be to be an Infernape in the One Piece world. 2, in more of a more innocent note, we would have Munchlax, because anyone that's watched this series, especially when it comes to Sanji's cooking, Luffy can eat, like, a lot. Like, Luffy has, like, beyond Saiyan level, eating capacity. This man can eat and then basically just go into Gear 4th and burn all those calories and then just keep eating if he truly wanted to. So I think Munchlax, being, the tiny Pokemon that could eat a lot, is a perfect representation for Luffy's, eating habits and everything. Then I have Machamp. Specifically, Machamp with Guts is a perfect representation for Gear 2nd. Machamp, especially in like Pokémon and all that, has the tendency of Machamp glowing red because the Guts activated and the steam is coming off of him. He's got that red tint. He's faster, stronger, and all that in like Pokémon and stuff, and it fits perfectly with Gear 2nd. The classic pose, Luffy getting his steam on, the tint of his blood flow going even higher, and the body temperature increase. Guts in Machamp is a perfect representation for that, especially when you see something like in Pokemon where he has the basically he has the Gamu Gamu no Gatling, where he does the 10,000 punches in a second to destroy a mountain that he has from the Pokédex entries. So Machamp is just a great representation for that. As his 4th one, I would have Golurk. And Golurk is a representation for Gear 4th. Because, in the anime, Golurk has the tendency of folding its legs into its body. And he's basically like a rocket ship. He's got the big shoulders and everything. He's got the rocket fists. Golurk is basically just an ancient robot. And it fits really well, similar to how Luffy flies in One Piece. He doesn't have like jet propulsion, but he's basically just kicking the air so fast that it looks like he has jets. So I think that's a perfect representation of Luffy's Gear 4th form and how he developed post time skip, where he relied more on Gear 4th, especially until recently, and how it worked, and more just like aesthetically. Like if Golurk Shiny wasn't like silver, if it was like black and red, that would be perfect. It would look almost identical to Gear 4th, so I think it works. Luffy's legendary, believe it or not, would be Zero Aura. For a while, I was considering having him have Marshadow, the fighting type, small. I was going to have it be Marshadow because Luffy's like 5'5". But then there's characters like Big Mom, Kaido, Whitebeard, who are all 20 feet tall. Even Roger was like 9 feet tall. Brook is 9 feet tall. Kinemon too. Like the heights in One Piece get ridiculous, and for Luffy to be an averagely sized person, I think in a world basically of giants, it would have been kind of cool to have Marshadow being a small legendary who packs one heck of a punch to be on his team. But at the end of the day, I ended up choosing Zero Aura for a few reasons. One, he's similar to Luffy in stature, so it works. Zero Aura would be super fast to help represent, the speed of characters in One Piece because of the ridiculous nature of the show. And, not being a proper fighting type, Zero Aura does have a lot of fighting type moves and has a lot of... He basically looks like a fighting type without being a fighting type. But he has the added benefit of Volt Absorb, making him immune to electricity. Something that Luffy is. So that's overall why I chose Zero Aura over Marshadow. It's you could go either one, and I think it works out pretty well. And finally, Girder or Conkelder, the Girder for right now because he hasn't completed his journey. And then when he becomes King of the Pirates, Conkelder. Girder because also has guts, but Girder with Eviolite is one Pokemon that can take a ton of damage and then just get stronger and stronger and gets back up and just keeps going, which pretty much describes Luffy to a T. That man will lose and lose and lose and lose, but he's always learning from those losses, always getting stronger, always improving his hockey, his devil fruit, even his creativity with the damn thing. It just allows him to do so. So I think it is a great choice for his final mon, being a middle stage, a Pokemon that still has potential to be met, just like Monkey D. Luffy does. And I think that's the final choice. And that will be the final choice for his team. And that's the final character I've chose to do for this video. I'm only doing 3 characters for this one, see how it performs. If it does well, I could do a whole Straw Hats video, all the Yonko, all the Warlords, the Worst Generation, any of them. So if you guys like this video, just kind of let me know, and just choose which group of characters you'd like for me to do next, I suppose. But all in all, that's all I really have to say. So for everyone who's decided to stick to this point to the end, please like the video, subscribe, leave a comment if y'all want, share it if y'all really want to. It's cool if you don't. It is what it is. But thank you and have a great night.